Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 858 of the Juicebox Podcast. On today's show, I'm going to be speaking with Jenna. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes as an adult and has run in a number of marathons with type 1. We're going to be talking about that and much more on this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice. I just forgot the words. That's crazy. Medical or otherwise. Wow. While you're listening today, how do I do this? While you're listening today, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Wow, I have said that so many times, I don't think I'm thinking about it while I'm doing it. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. If you're from the U.S., and have type 1 or are the caregiver of a type 1, please take the survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Thank you. I'm just going to leave all that in so you can enjoy my confusion. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Touched by Type 1. Visit Touched by Type 1 online at touchedbytype1.org. And also find them on Instagram and Facebook. They're a beautiful organization doing wonderful things for people with type 1 diabetes, and they would love for you to check them out. Touchedbytype1.org. The podcast is also sponsored today by US Med. Get your diabetes supplies the same way my daughter does, from US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Just get your free benefits check, and you're on your way with US Med. Actually, US Med called here tonight. It was a personal call. They were looking for Arden because they were like, hey, hello, this is US Med. And I said, hello, US Med. How are you? And they were like, fine. And then they said, would Arden like the Dexcom G7? And I said, you know it. And they said, all right. And now that's done. usmed.com/juicebox. Links to all the sponsors are in the show notes of the audio app you're listening in or at juiceboxpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Jenna, and I've had type 1 diabetes for 3 years.
How old are you, Jenna?
I'm 35. So I was diagnosed when I was 32.
Are you married?
No.
No. When you were 32, I asked the question awkwardly, but were you with anybody when you were diagnosed? I guess is what I was trying to get at.
I am now, but I was not back then.
Not then, am now. Got it. Okay. Very expected or unexpected?
It was completely unexpected. So I have no family history. Kind of came out of nowhere. I do work in healthcare, so I actually did end up recognizing my own symptoms, but I was pretty sick and it took a little while for me to get there. Mm-hmm. So I guess I could talk about that a little bit if you want me to.
Jenna, look at you producing. No. I was going to ask, what did you notice? And why did it take you time to, I guess, come to grips with it?
So I'm a really big runner, and I had run 12 marathons in my life up to that point, and I was training really hard to try to qualify for Boston. I live in Oklahoma. It's extremely hot in the summer here, so I've been doing a lot of running in the heat. So I was drinking a ton of water, all the usual symptoms, going to the bathroom all the time, losing weight. And I was thinking, man, this marathon training is really killing me, and it's working really well for weight loss this time. But, eventually I started thinking to myself, this just isn't right. So I checked my blood sugar at work, and it was too high for the glucometer to read. And I was in denial. So I said to my friend, I think our glucometer is broken. Can you check your blood sugar? And she was drinking a Coke, and hers was like 102. So I knew at that point.
I think your blood sugar is broken. We got to get a third person over here to try this.
I know. That's how I felt. That's what I was hoping for, denial.
Can I ask you about those 60 seconds when you say to your friend, hey, check your blood sugar, this glucometer's not working? Are you honestly thinking that's the case? Or are you thinking, oh, wow, this is my last chance to prove I don't have diabetes?
That's exactly what it was, because I had been thinking for days that I should check my blood sugar at work, but it was like every day, it was like one more day. If I if I can put this aside for one more day, not think about it. So that was a Tuesday. I'd worked that weekend before. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day, told myself, you're going to check your blood sugar today. And then finally on Tuesday, decided, you know what, I have to just do this. So I've lost about 20 pounds. So I knew that, you know, something was pretty wrong.
What would you do professionally if somebody did what you did? What would you say to them?
Oh, I mean, I guess I'll say now that I can. So I'm a PA, like I said, I work in healthcare. And I understand denial is a powerful tool, and I guess I'm more empathetic towards patients in that regard now, because, you know, I would think to one of my coworkers, how did you not notice this? You know, but really, I think I just didn't want to come to terms with it.
Yeah, no, I understand it. I'm glad it gave you some perspective that you can use with other people. So you're a physician's assistant?
Yes, I am.
Nice. That's a cool job. You work in a hospital system or in just like a physician's office?
I work in a hospital system. So I do a little bit of both. I do hospital side and clinic, which is nice.
Nice. How long have you been doing that?
10 years now.
Wow. Did you say Oklahoma earlier?
Yes.
It is really hot there, huh? How come you people can't drive in the snow?
Oh, I have no idea. I used to actually live in Philadelphia, and I couldn't drive in the snow there, but you didn't really have to because, you know, they plow the streets and salt, but here they just don't do anything to the roads. So like a half inch of ice shuts us down.
I gave a talk in Oklahoma once, and it got about half the turnout as tickets sold because there was what I would generously call a dusting of snow on the ground 3 hours before the thing began. And it was clean by the time it happened. And people were just like, we don't go out in this. I'm like, in what? I just couldn't understand.
It shuts down our state. That's for sure.
Very interesting. Okay. So how did you make it from Philadelphia to Oklahoma?
So
you didn't run there, did you? Because you're a marathon.
Oh, I wish. No. So I'm originally from the Philadelphia area, but my dad got transferred to Oklahoma when I was in like second grade. Then I went to PA school back in Philly, and then I moved back here. So I've just kind of been back and forth.
So military bounced you around?
No, my dad actually is not military, but I get asked that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, just a job change. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Upside to Oklahoma over Philadelphia and vice versa?
I'd say the people in Oklahoma are the friendliest ever. So definitely that wins for Oklahoma. Philadelphia is nice because it's close, you know, to a lot of places. So you get a weekend off work, you know, or a long weekend. You can do a lot of traveling in Oklahoma, pretty much have to fly anywhere. Yeah. So that's the downside of Oklahoma.
Take the first 3 days to get out of Oklahoma, right?
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you're like, I got to go back to work. So, okay. So this happens at the hospital or at work where you test your blood sugar. You and your friend, I imagine, look at each other, your coworker, like, oh, wow, you have diabetes. And then what do?
So I broke down. So, you know, I was really upset. I also didn't realize how much different management was from what I thought. So like, I didn't know CGMs existed or anything. So I was just like, I was supposed to run this marathon 11 days later that I'd been working super hard for. And I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. I started crying at work basically. So the physician I work with actually called the endocrine department and got me an appointment the next day. So I'm extremely lucky to have had that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. So the running was the first feeling of loss and you had it immediately?
Yeah, I guess, you know, managing type 1 diabetes, like I said, is a lot different than I thought it was. So I just immediately was like thinking of this life of, you know, surrounded by finger sticks and just, you know, I didn't know about the modern technology at that point in time, which is crazy to think about now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, did you have much connection to diabetes in your practice?
We see a ton of type 2.
But they're not really wearing CGMs yet at this point with any great frequency.
You know, it's interesting. They either hadn't been or I just wasn't as aware of them because now Libres are very common among my type 2 patients at this point.
Interesting. That's interesting. And it hasn't been that long. So maybe it was a little of both. Maybe it's coming on and at the same time you weren't really looking for it.
That's what I think.
It's interesting. Okay. Why do people run at all? Like for any reason whatsoever? I don't understand at all. Like, so is it are there voices in your head you're trying to keep quiet? Is it about setting a goal and getting to it? Like what makes you want to just go out there and pound away like that?
I guess I am a pretty goal-oriented person, but There's actually a really strong running community in Oklahoma City. So I meet a little group to run before work Tuesday through Friday. So it's kind of nice little social hour before work. And I meet a group to do long runs on Sundays. So it is a pretty social sport.
Yeah. You're not answering my question though, Jenna. Are these a group of lunatics, these people, or are they just some people who like to run? What is it? May I tell you why?
I guess we just like to run. Oh, what were you about to say?
I have to just... this person's never going to hear this, so it's fine. I'm tangentially related, not related. I've seen a person more than once or twice in my life, let's just say, who runs to the point where their body appears to be a skeleton wrapped in small muscles, and they don't seem like happy people to me.
Oh, well, I don't run that much. I don't think you'd even look at me and probably peg me as a runner. I just look like an average person.
Okay. And not to lump everybody into one category, which is what I just did and not what I mean. But this specific person I'm thinking of, like in my mind, when I look at them, I think something's wrong and this is the way they're dealing with it. It doesn't look any different than overeating to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know the kind of people you're talking about, but I wouldn't put myself in that category. I just like to run. I ran track and cross country as a kid, and I just kept going.
You get that like, what do they call that? Runner's high?
Maybe sometimes. I don't think on a daily basis or anything.
No kidding. It's so goal oriented. So we're getting through this. My son just explained this to me the other day. He said, I don't care what I'm doing. I just want to set a goal, achieve the goal, and reset a goal. It's very, is that sort of it then?
I think so. Yeah, I had that goal to qualify for Boston, and I will tell you, I ran that marathon 11 days later, and I did.
Did you really?
So,
wait a minute.
I did.
You just did you know what you were doing at all with your diabetes?
I did a ton of reading in that 11-day period. So they started me, on Toujeo and Humalog. So I just started doing a bunch of reading, cut back my Toujeo the night before. So I was taking it at nighttime and I got through that marathon pretty well. Actually, I use a Dexcom now, but I had a Libre, a sample that the office gave me to use for it. And so I just scanned it every half mile and carried a bunch of carbs and
kept going,
made it to the end.
Did you cheat and fly to Boston or did you run there?
Oh, I flew.
So
probably could have run quicker. No kidding.
It would have been a quick jump from Philly, about 45 minutes into Boston, but
that's true. I chose to go from Oklahoma.
Yeah. Do you go in like days prior, set yourself up in a hotel? How does that work?
For Boston, I went 2 days early. So a lot of times I'll go 2 days early so you can go to the expo and pick up your packet and everything. And then, then run the marathon. Then I'll stay a day and check out the town. If I go to an out of town marathon, then I'll fly back.
Interesting. Okay. And you have energy the next day?
Not very much. Sometimes my friend and I ran Chicago a few years ago. We had all these plans of sightseeing, and that did not happen at all. So
I was going to say, I had an extended catch with Cole the other day, and I was like, tomorrow we're going to need to take a break. So I'm saying you get on a plane. Like if I got on a plane and flew from Oklahoma to Boston and spent a couple of days, I might need those days to recoup from the flight. Maybe this says more about me than it does about you. So how do you, going back to that first run, well, let me ask this. How many marathons had you run prior to your diabetes, do you think?
I ran 12 prior to.
Okay. And then I'm assuming there's, a way you get ready, whether you have diabetes or not, but how does it differ from before type 1 and after type 1?
Oh, it's a lot different for me now. I think the hardest thing for me with type 1 has been managing my running schedule because, I used to carb load the days before. I don't really do that because I find that just makes my blood sugar high and that's more stressful for me. So typically most runs I run fasting because I find that I drop much less if I do that. So marathon day, I don't. I change my plan that day, which they usually say don't change what you do on marathon day, but with diabetes, I think it works better to do that. And then I can only fuel during the race, depending on what my blood sugar is doing. Like before I had diabetes, every 4 miles, I would take like carbs in. But now if my blood sugar is high, then I don't. I try to run it down and put it off a few more miles.
I see. So so you're running now. Do you wear a Dexcom or do you still have a Libre?
No, I have a Dexcom now.
Okay. Are you looking at it on a watch when you're running or how do you do that?
I have an Apple Watch, so I look at my Apple Watch. I often just run with my phone in my hand, like on normal days during the week, just because the Apple Watch, you got to tap on the screen sometimes to get the number to come up correctly. So sometimes it's just easier to hold my phone. I have it like a little widget on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those two ways.
I love that widget, by the way.
Me too. It makes life so much easier.
I have it on mine as well, and Arden has it on hers for Dexcom, and I just looked at it now because it's that easy. I'm just imagining you running along, like tapping on that watch, and then running into a pole or something. Trying to.
I know, right? That'd be my luck.
Clunk. Well, at least my blood sugar is good as I lay here waiting for help.
My face might not be.
So, what kind of supplies do you run with now? Is it like? I mean, you said like carbs, but what does that mean?
So I used to use those like little goos. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Like runners and triathletes use them a lot, but so they're just like basically like a honey consistency, but they have 23 carbs in them and spike my blood sugar like crazy. Mm-hmm. So during the week, normally I just use fruit snacks because there's about 4 carbs per fruit snack. So if I see I'm trending down, I'll just pop a fruit snack or two, because if you use the goos, then you end up high when you're done. And since I'm type A, I like to have tight control. So I don't want to end my runs with high blood sugars.
What's that mean? What's your range that you're shooting for?
I pretty much try to keep my blood sugar between 70 and 140 as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Well, you listen to this podcast, right?
I do. Yes.
Okay. That's, when did you find it?
I found it probably about 3 weeks after I was diagnosed. I was trying to learn as much as I could. And I started like doing Google searches and everything, found your podcast, and I've listened to probably almost every episode now.
Jenna, I was just saying the
I
other
jump
day,
around, but
well, I don't care how you get it done. And I was just saying the other day, I have to find like a digital award to give people. Like when they've listened to every episode, they should get something. I don't know how to handle. I don't know what you would do with that. Maybe an NFT. Is that what we should do? Should we do an NFT for people who've listened to every episode? Can you imagine if I got involved in that? I don't.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not doing that, by the way. Not even close. Don't even worry. But I do, when people say like I've listened to pretty much the whole show, I'm like, wow, it's amazing. So thank you. So when you found it. So I think I want to go back a little bit because I find your age of diagnosis interesting.
So did I. I didn't even know you could get diagnosed as an adult until I did. Now I realize it's a lot more common than I thought.
Right. But it's that mid-30s thing where you're sort of like, I did it. Like nothing real bad's going to happen unless like I get the cancer at the end. Like, right? Like, isn't that how you feel a little?
Oh, I know. I mean, I feel fortunate that I got diagnosed in a time with all this technology, but it's still hard,
Yeah, out of nowhere, right? Just out of nowhere. Oh, Jenna, someone is calling my cell phone incessantly. So we're going to have to do something about that. Hold on a second. Sure. What in the hell is happening here? Am I going to call them? Let's see what it was. Here's my fear. Is that I think it's a doctor's office and I'm going to need to do it, right? But instead, I'm going to guess that it's just a bullshit call. Daniel from the mortgage benefits. Hold on a second. Listen to this.
Hi, this is Daniel. I'm calling from the mortgage benefits department. Sorry we missed you today.
Piece of shit.
Oh, I get those calls too.
Oh my God, leave me alone. Daniel. I don't need your problems, Daniel. Now, that's all right. Anyway, I don't know. Like my phone never rings ever. Nobody bothers me. And then when Jenny and I are doing like a thing, I get the Walgreens call, like your prescription's ready to pick up at Walgreens, and I complain. I hate it so much. And yet I don't go to the trouble of unsubscribing from the phone call for some reason. I'm sorry. So let me refocus. Mid-30s. Well, actually 32, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it still seems to me that that's a time in your life when you kind of think like the juvenile stuff didn't get to me. I mean, did you have other health issues at all?
I have never had any other health issues.
Okay.
So it was really out of nowhere.
And we kind of substantiated that you were on your own. You weren't in a relationship at the time. So my guess is you're not living with your parents. You're living on your own. What's that like trying to find a support system?
I will say it is a little bit difficult just because nobody else has any idea how to manage my diabetes even still. But I feel like at first just my dad was pretty good about trying to learn everything kind of alongside. My parents spend their summers, they live in Oklahoma, but they spend their summers out of state. So they actually weren't here when I was diagnosed, but I don't want to give just my dad the credit, my mom too. Both of my family is really close. So both of my parents did do a lot of reading, but still, when I was trying to figure out, I took it to myself to start adjusting all my insulin right away, but, trying to figure all that out, I still felt like I was kind of, on my own instead of being like a child that, had like parent support system or significant other at the time. Yeah. So
did you apply that feeling you have inside about setting goals to diabetes then?
Yeah, I think so. Because, right away, I did not like to see those high numbers. So right away, I was trying to figure out what I needed to do to get that down and try to get tight control.
What's it feel like psychologically when your blood sugar goes up? I don't know why. I wish I should just ask everyone this. I don't know why I don't, but like, I imagine a panic.
Oh my gosh. And you're like, for me, my mouth gets so dry. It's like an unquenchable thirst. Especially when I was first diagnosed, my vision was a little bit blurry. I felt like my head was in a cloud all the time. And I was so tired, which I think is probably from the high blood sugars. I just had so much fatigue, but then also, I was like peeing 5 times a night. So I was getting no sleep at all. It was terrible.
Blood sugars, I have to pee, can't sleep. Blood sugars, I have to pee, can't sleep. And my gosh. And by yourself. And then, but then did you have that concern about lows back then too? Or did you not even know enough about it to think about it?
I really didn't at first. I did have one episode of a bad low a few months after I was diagnosed. So that really scared me on track to be careful and make sure that I'm not trying to force too tight of control, that I'll get myself low. So I guess I can talk about that if you want me to.
Jenna, are you not scary, are you stopping yourself from talking? Are you worried? No? Yeah. Well, what? No. You're like, I guess if you want it, I could tell you. I mean, listen, Jen, if you don't tell me about it, we're done. You know what I mean? Like, I need to hear about this low blood sugar. You think I got a plan over here, Jen? I'm like, oh no, shut up about that. I got to go to my next thought. I don't know my next thought. So how soon into the diagnosis was this scary low? Have you found that getting your diabetes supplies can be a pain in the butt? I have too. But not any longer, because now we're getting Arden's diabetes supplies from US Med. To get a free benefits check, just call 888-721-1514 or go to usmed.com/juicebox. US Med has served over 1 million diabetes customers since 1996. And they want you to know that they're offering you better service and better care than you're getting now. US Med always provides 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. They carry everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and the Dexcom G7. Arden gets her Dexcoms and her Omnipods from US Med. US Med accepts Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems, the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, #1 fastest growing tandem distributor, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer service satisfaction surveys, and they are proud of the white glove treatment that they offer their customers. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. And that 888 number is special just for Juicebox Podcast listeners. Now, if you decide to go to the website, it's super simple. Here's what it tells you when you get there. Getting started is easy. From the comfort of your own home or office, you can now join over 1 million satisfied customers who rely on our staff of courteous, knowledgeable, and trained US Med customer care representatives to keep you up to date with your medical and diabetic supplies, delivered right to your door. Super simple benefits check. Name, phone number, email, zip code, and then just hit the button that says request a free benefits check. It's that easy. Let US Med take care of your supplies so you don't have to worry.
November, so I was diagnosed in June. So
Yeah, not
actually,
long.
it's like 5 months. Yeah, it was 5 months into it. So it was really fortunate for me that I had been set up with Dexcom at that time. And it was in November. So I'd gone to my parents' house for dinner like the week before this happened. And I said to my dad, oh, there's this like Dexcom follow app. Do you want me to set your phone up and you can follow my blood sugars? It'll alert you if I go low. So we did. We got them all set up on that. And then it was a Friday night and I had gone to watch the Thunder game with some of my friends. I came home and I hadn't eaten dinner yet. So I bolused for a frozen pizza. And I don't know if I over bolused, if I fell asleep. I actually don't know what happened, but my parents had repeatedly called me and I apparently answered the phone, but don't really remember talking to them. So anyways, they ended up having to call EMS to come administer like IV sugar, D50, I assume is what they gave me.
Yeah.
So that was obviously extremely scary for them and extremely scary for me. So, I learned my lesson there. But living by yourself is, can be a little bit scary too, I guess.
It's one of the things I think about most when I'm talking to adults. Like the idea that they could be living on their own.
Yeah.
And then, you don't like to think about it, but if your dad's not following you, which you didn't, it's not like somebody came down and like handed you a decree and said, hey, you have a Dexcom now, make sure someone's following you. You just thought like, oh, this will be a good idea. And then this happens. And it's just a normal thing, right? You tried to go out, you came home, you were hungry, but you were tired and your blood sugar was low. And that's it. It's just, and your dad doesn't call. And I hate to say it, but who knows, right?
I know. I'm so fortunate because apparently his phone was in the other room and my mom picked it up and was like, your phone's making a sound I've never heard before. And my dad was like, oh, that's Jenna's blood sugar. So I got also so fortunate that I was on the Dexcom at that time because, I don't know,
what's
otherwise.
with older people who don't clink? You're running with your phone in front of your face and your dad's phone's in a different room. We got to get him on Wordle or something. So he feels a deep connection to his cell phone and he won't leave it alone.
I know. Now my mom follows me too after that event. And she's real good about it. Every now and then I'll drop in the mornings when I run. I feel bad because they get alerted, very early in the morning. And I've never had any other like major issues with lows except for that one time. So I don't know if I still don't know since I was on MDI at the time if I could have over bolused. I'll never really know the answer to that.
Right. Yeah, you might have just looked at the carbs and been like, oh, this is good. And then turned on the oven and like by the way, frozen pizza. Nothing says I live by myself and I'm in my 30s like frozen pizza, does it?
Oh, I know. Good story, right?
All right. So we'll build a phone addiction for your parents. I just, speaking about my phone, picked mine up a second ago, like Pavlov's dog. We were like cell phones. So I was like, let me hold my phone. There's the screen. I see the light. And your dad's is off in the other room. He's like, I don't need that thing. I love that.
I
It's
know.
really great.
Thankfully, my mom heard it.
Yeah. And your mom's got that like, I don't know your dad's name, but it's like that. Bill, your phone. It's doing something.
I know.
He's like, that's the girl. Can you believe she got diabetes? Can you imagine the first 5 minutes of that conversation before they realized you were in trouble? They were probably like, I thought we were rid of her.
No, I know. Sometimes I feel every now and then, I'll have a night where I dip down a little bit and I'm like, I know what number they have their phone set for. I'm like, please don't like make their phone beep because it's like, having a newborn child and their adult kid that, doesn't even live with them anymore. So
can you tell me about that a little? Is that a concern? Like really, like you don't want to bother somebody?
No, my parents are great. So they really don't, they don't care. And it doesn't have, I actually loop now. So I hardly have lows at night anymore. It's just more when I was getting started with things. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they don't mind if I bother them. I just kind of feel bad if that happens.
No, I understand. I wondered if it was in your head or not. This person you're with now, is it a person who could make a baby with you later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see.
But hopefully, like, you hope he can follow through, or hopefully your relationship will hold on.
No, we've been dating for 7 months, but he's a great guy, so we'll see.
Jenna, okay. How was it introducing the diabetes to a new person?
So he's been really good with it too. I'm very fortunate. I eat lower carb a lot of the time. I wouldn't call myself low carb, but he's completely on board with it. Like when we cook at night, trying to stay away from like the pastas, rices, potatoes. I mean, I'll do that every now and then, but I try not to make a habit of it every night. He's been great. Right. He's good with the lows. I'm lucky.
How much understanding? 7 months is early. So how much of the understanding do you find yourself giving it to him slowly? Because it could be overwhelming, right? Like if I met if I'm trying to put myself in your situation, but we're a few dates in and I'm starting to think, I wish he knew this and this, but if I tell him this, it might scare him away. Do those thoughts go through your head?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about that. Our second date was sushi. And so sushi is notoriously difficult for me. So I was trying to look at my Apple Watch, not try to look like I'm seeing what time it is and when I can get out of here, that type of thing. So, but now now he understands, and he's an engineer. I feel like he's like the kind of guy that researches things. So I think he's done a lot of reading on the side about it.
Yeah, they love that stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Speaking of people with odd minds, look at you, engineers and runners.
No, he's not a runner, but
no,
yeah,
I mean
right.
the mix you hang with is interesting too.
That's true.
What is it about your the way you think that lends yourself to those kinds of people, do you think?
Well, I come from a family of engineers. Obviously, I broke that track when I went into healthcare, but my dad and my two brothers are engineers.
Oh, so do you find that they're sort of linear thinkers and they like order and instruction and numbers and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. But I think I'm also like that. So
do you make it work in healthcare, or is it something you have to fight against?
No, I think it works well. Healthcare is also a goal-oriented field and dealing with numbers and things in a different way, but still doing it.
Mm-hmm. What's your A1C? Can I guess?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to guess. You've been listening to podcasts for 3 years. You run, you're a little low carb, you're looping, and you don't like a blood sugar over 140. Your A1C is 5.4.
It was actually 5.1 a few weeks ago when I saw my endo.
Look at you, fancy pants. All right. Well, that's a lot of running.
I do a lot of running, which I think helps tremendously. Because if I take like a week off running, I have to ramp my basal up.
I was going to ask what your basal is normally.
It's 0.7 during the day and 0.5 at night.
Jenna, do you know I'm going to ask you how much you weigh now? Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. How much?
Like 140.
140 and you're 0.7. Okay. And 1 unit moves you how far?
About 40.
Okay. Insulin sensitivity about 1 to 40. 0.7. That's the running. Without the running, what's your basal go to? Like 1.1 in there?
So I should put overrides when I don't run. So I'll do like 110% or something like that.
Oh, so like maybe 1.4 or more when you're not running.
Oh, so I do 110%. So like
110.
Increase, so,
excuse me.
So like increase it 10%. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I misheard
oh, you're good.
you. Like around 0.8 then.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. You caught me. You're like, oh God, the podcast I like, the guy can't do simple math.
No, I was just like, I don't use that much. So.
oh, that's interesting. It would have bothered you for people to think that you were at 1.7?
Oh no, I was just thinking that would be back to that pizza incident again. If I was 1.7.
You're like, I go 1.7 and we're back to my dad's phone making a funny noise.
Exactly.
And we know that funny noise was your mom.
Oh, I know. It haunts me. In fact, I was at the grocery store the other day and heard that noise. And I was like, I know it's not my phone. And I'm like, I'm getting, PTSD here. Somebody is low in this grocery store.
Are you the kind of person, did you say it out loud, you're low, or did you let it go?
No, I didn't say anything, but I was looking around trying to see where it was coming from.
Looking for who's looking for the candy aisle.
Exactly.
Hustling for the gummy bears. Which, by the way, may I just say something about gummy bears for a second? I want to make sure I get the name right here. Let's see. I'm in because this freaking spam call won't stop coming. What is the name of this company? They're so good. Oh, here it is. Albanese gummy bears. ALBANESE.
Oh, I've never had them. I should write them down though.
Yeah, you all want to be a sponsor, let me know. Or even just send me a bag of bears. Like we started using them. We started eating them because my son's girlfriend was like, you guys should try these. I don't know where that came from. She just had a favorite gummy bear. And I was like, how could gummy bears be different? Like, what am I talking about here, right? Because, when you think of gummy bears, you think of the other brand, right? The Haribo or whatever. I mean, maybe people think of different ones. Anyway, I eat this thing and it's a life-changing experience as far as gummy bears go. I was like, this is amazing. So we started keeping them in a little dish, and we started to learn that just a couple of them could really move Arden's blood sugar a little bit when we need it to, if she's 70, 80 kind of thing, and just wanted to bump it back a little bit. But the problem is, Jenna, and I'm being honest with you, they're a little too good. So sometimes you eat them when your blood sugar is not low. You know what I mean? Or sometimes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Or we all do that sometimes.
Yeah. Or sometimes your dad eats them. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, there's my gummy bear referral of the week. They're not a sponsor, but if they were, I'd be so thrilled. I would do an ad for gummy bears, no trouble whatsoever. I could talk about them with a lot of love. What other podcasts do you listen to?
I actually don't listen to a lot of other podcasts. I do audiobooks, but I'm actually not a big podcaster.
I just got the Audible the other day.
Oh, I love Audible.
Yeah. Arden needed it for school, and then it was over, and we still had it. And I thought, I'm going to try an audiobook. So I downloaded one, and I've been listening it, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. But I listen to your podcast or audiobooks like to and from work, and, I'm making dinner, doing, it's easy to multitask and listen to content. That's why your podcast has been so helpful for me.
Oh, I'm glad. Did I get you to looping?
I think I would say yes. So I considered it, and then I figured if that's what you were doing, that's probably the tightest management or the best way to go. So I started in January, I guess a year and a half ago. So I've been looping for a year and a half because I thought building it seemed, I was nervous about it. It just seemed like a daunting task, I guess. And it turned out it wasn't nearly as hard as I thought. So
I just rebuilt Loop, and I was even surprised that they've made it so easy now. Like you just kind of click a link. And I
know, I'm like, I could be wiring money to China. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I just follow the steps and it shows up on my phone.
Jenna, I love that that's part of you're in your head. You're like, someone is probably stealing money from me, but I really need this algorithm. Click.
I know. I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm doing on this computer, but the Loop docs really make it pretty easy to do.
They do. You really got me with I might be wiring money to China.
Luckily, they don't ask your credit card number, so I knew that wasn't really the case. But I joke with everybody because people are like, you built an app. I mean, I'm not like the most computer savvy. I'm just like average.
Right.
But really, it's not that hard to do.
The last, like I said, I just did it like a week ago, and I was like, wow, this is so much easier now. And it was, I mean, with a good internet connection and a reasonably fast computer, it doesn't even take very long. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought. I set aside like a whole entire day. I thought it was going to be like this 10-hour thing, and absolutely not. It was pretty easy.
Yeah, I have to admit I did that. So Jenna, can we talk about that for a second? Because here's the thing. You and I are recording in June, and no one's going to hear this till Christmas. But I need you to keep your mouth shut when we get off of this recording. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, because timing, you'll understand in a second. All right? And keep your mouth shut was a little harsh. I didn't mean it like that.
No, I got you.
Dummy up, okay? So, dummy up, what is that from? An old TV show. What am I thinking of?
It might be a movie reference. I don't know.
No, it's Archie Bunker. It's
okay.
That's a show you've never seen.
You're right.
Yeah, what was that? All in the Family. That's what if he told people to shut up, he told them to dummy up. How do I even remember that? That show came out when I was born. It was literally out for 7 months before I was born. And I know that. Man, you people who have streaming services, you have no idea how lucky you are. I was 15 years old watching a 15-year-old TV show like it was first run. You guys are out watching episode 67 of season 6 of something that's amazing right now. Anyway, Arden used Omnipod 5 for a while. And we used it for 2 reasons. I wanted to understand it. That was first and foremost. And I wanted to see if it was something I thought Arden could stick with, because I wanted it to be. I wanted her to have a retail option. I didn't want there to be a Riley link in between the pod and the algorithm, etc. And we figured it out, and I understand it now. I understand how it works. It's very it's reminiscent to the other retail stuff that's available.
Okay.
But it for me, what it eventually taught me was that Omnipod 5, Control IQ, they're not competitors with Loop. Like to hold those two things up against each other is a mistake. Omnipod 5 is not trying to be Loop. Control IQ is not trying to be Loop. Nothing's trying to be Loop, honestly. The Medtronic version is not trying to be it. And so where I found it lacking for us was in target blood sugar and the ability to address a rising blood sugar more aggressively. Those were really the two, I wouldn't call them problems. It was just the two sticking points that I had. Now I'm watching people online use it and they're loving it. It's going exactly the way I expected. Not everybody's going to listen to this podcast the way you did, right? And those people deserve to have blood sugars that are reasonable too. And so if these people are seeing rises that are coming back in a couple of hours and not getting low, this is a significant improvement for them. And so I think it's going to catch on huge. And I think people are really going to love it. It's only been out for a couple of months now that I'm talking about this. But for us, it was, I don't know. We just wanted to go back to Loop. So
yeah, Loop has some good features too, like being able to set the overrides, like being able to set a time. I do that a lot at night. I'll set an override I usually run at 5. So for 4:30 in the morning with a really high target. So essentially it shuts off my basal. So I don't have to actually wake up and do it. It's nice that it just does it on its own. Or, you can program it to do it on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's it's do it yourself. There's a lot of little options that are great that, didn't have to go through FDA approval and doesn't have to be printed in a manual and you don't have to train people on. And there's a lot of reasons why retail systems don't do some of that stuff. And they're all very legitimate reasons. Like, I'm not telling you differently. I am seeing people online, who are setting their range 70 to 180 and coming in range 100%. And, for someone who more recently had a 320 blood sugar that then was a 46 hours later, it's an amazing improvement it's going to be amazing improvement for most people using insulin.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm super excited about all of them. I can't wait to learn more about them. And, I figured out ways to manipulate it a little bit, but it was almost too smart. Like if you manipulated it in one way, it would manipulate you back and you'd be like, oh, no. And you're like, okay, well, and one of those things, I mean, is like if I made like a really good, what I would consider like a good aggressive bolus on like a heavy carb meal, something that held Arden in the 80s or 90s for hours after this meal. It was like for hours, I was like, I am killing this, except the algorithm was like, yo, our target's 110. And so for every minute it was 90, it was trying to get her to 110, taking basal away. And then when my gray bolus left, there was a black hole where no basal existed. And then she'd head back up again. Now it would see that, but it wouldn't address it till 110. And then it was addressing it not aggressively enough to stop a 170.
Okay.
So even if I created a 90, I couldn't avoid the 170 later. I was either having it on one side or the other. If I would have made if I would have made a less aggressive bolus and held her at like 120 after a meal, then I think then the algorithm would have stayed in the game a little bit. But I was just like, I don't know. Like I'm so accustomed to doing it the way we do it. But anyway, I wanted to have the experience. I had it. It's amazing. And I know how to talk about it now. But we did switch back. So
yeah, I'll be looking forward to that episode. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be a game changer for a lot of people because I know Loop is a lot for a lot of people, to try to even think about doing.
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding? Like I was in a panic when I Arden's like, I'm going to, when are we going to switch back? We'd been talking about it, letting it go for a while and everything. And the other thing too, I should mention here is that Arden's having trouble with her hormones. Like we're still speaking with doctors about getting her hormones balanced and everything. Like her insulin needs might be heavier than most people's. Like, you know what I mean? So who knows if we don't figure out this kind of imbalance that she has and maybe we can put it back on her again and give it another try, which I would absolutely do. The system was terrific. It was easy to use and, kind of carefree actually. So, anyway, what she said was like, when are we going to do this? She got up one morning and she's like, hey, my pod's going to expire today. Today'd be a good time, but I have to leave at 1:00 to go to a graduation party. It was like 11:00. And I sent Kenny a message, Kenny from Fox, the Fox and the Fox and the Loop Help. Oh my God, Jenna. Kenny from the Fox in the Loop Help. Holy shit, Jenna. This is it. Hold on. This is it. I'm going to start over. Kenny from the Fox in the Loop House episodes. What was happening just then? Anyway, he helped me. He's very nice. He sent me a little information that I needed, and I just pushed on. In like 90 minutes, we were running again. It was
that's
easy.
great.
Yeah, it was not difficult. And I would tell you probably it was a new pod, plus we were switching from one algorithm's idea to another. It probably took about 6 hours for the new algorithm to kind of find its rhythm a little bit. But anyway, there's no losing here. Things are so much better. And options. Omnipod 5, Control IQ, Medtronic's new thing, I think isn't quite out yet. And, if you want to go do it yourself, Loop. So I'm sorry I talk so much there, but.
Oh, no, you're good. But see, that's what I mean. When I first got diagnosed 3 years ago, I didn't even, most of these algorithms weren't even out yet. I guess Loop was, but, the diabetes market has changed significantly in the last few years. So fortunate for that.
No kidding. I mean, look at you. You're wandering around with your 5.1 A1C 3 years after diagnosis. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, you deserve it. So I'm sure a lot of hard work in there too, figuring things out. Like you said, you did a ton of reading in the beginning just to go running. And now you probably have a process you use with your algorithm to run. How do you do that?
I do. So what I do is I basically have a target glucose of 500, which essentially shuts it off. I guess you can also turn the pod off, but this is just as easier for me to do. So I turn my basal off about 30 minutes before I go run in the morning. And then I turn the basal back on about 15 minutes before I'm done running, because like you always say, what you're doing now is for later. So if I don't turn it back on before my run, then I end up going high after I'm done.
Yeah.
But that seems to work pretty well for me. It's different for me if I run after work. If running fasting really works so much easier. But if I exercise later in the day, I have to cut my basal out significantly earlier. 30 minutes doesn't work. So, I think in the morning I might be more insulin resistant.
So 2 questions. So running without any active insulin is easier.
Absolutely. Right. Yes.
And when you cut your basal off, for how long are you cutting it off for? Like, how long are those runs?
So usually before work, on work days, I'm usually running about 5 miles. So less than an hour.
Okay.
45 minutes or so.
I was asking because if you're running for a long, long time, then having no basal is not a good answer, because you could go into DKA easily.
Right.
Yeah.
So I use a small amount of basal during long runs. And I also bolus really tiny, like a quarter of what I normally would for the amount of carbs I'm consuming. So I do use insulin during those.
Yeah. Not that I didn't think you were, but it felt important to say here that
for people out there, yes.
Yeah, that you could have what looks like great blood sugar, but if you don't have insulin, you could still go into DKA. So you could have a 95 blood sugar, be running for 3 hours without your basal on, and still have a medical emergency. So you do need.
Don't do that.
Yeah, Jenna's like, I didn't say that. No one said that. Stop it. No, I just wanted to be clear. Okay. Well, what if I not asked you? Oh, I started leading into. So first of all, it sounds like you like this boy, Jenna, which is nice. And but you're thinking of kids, like for yourself, maybe not with him, but kids are something you want to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully. 35, but hopefully.
Are you starting to feel like this is it?
Oh, what do you mean by that?
TikTok, like time wise? Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think I still have some time, but my friend is an OBGYN. I was joking with her. I'm like, they're going to love me when I'm like in my late 30s with type 1 diabetes saying I want to have a baby, but I have tight control. So I think that should be okay.
How many children do you imagine yourself with?
1 or 2.
Okay. They're a lot of trouble, Jenna. I'm not going to lie.
I know my brother has 2 little ones, so they're also a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, the little ones are great. They're
the ants. That being an ant is the fun part,
Yeah. It's not until they can think on their own and they cost a lot that it becomes really troublesome.
That's true.
Start having their own theories about life, and you're like, oh no, like I'm tired, I'm old. Like you don't know this yet, but 15 years from now, you're going to be like, I don't want to hear your thoughts on this subject. I have my own. Sure. Although it's great because they bring in another generation of ideas, and it is. I'm joking halfway. Like the part I mean is, it's great to hear their thoughts, and it's great to even try to learn more about the world through their eyes. But there's moments when they're making decisions, and you're like, I think I'm right here. Like I don't think they should be doing this, And so when they were little, you just sort of like turn them. You're like, look over here, and then when they're older, you're like, well, here's my opinion. I hope you consider it. And it takes that parenting thing and it turns it into something different.
That's true.
Man, you have to keep adjusting with it. It's a lot like everything else in life. You're not done. If you really want to be involved, you're never done being flexible. You know?
That's true.
And then the money's terrible. So you have kids, hope they're going to be nice blue collar people who go out and get a nice job that doesn't cost a college education, because they're really expensive. It's terrible.
Oh, I know.
Are you paying
It
for
is
yours
crazy. Still? So I have a tiny bit left on my student loans from PA school. I was fortunate enough my parents paid for undergrad, but I'm almost done. So next year I can be debt free.
Nice. How are you planning on paying them back? What are you going to do?
Well, they were nice. They gifted us our undergrad education. So once I finish my student loans for PA school, then I won't have any more. I won't owe anybody anything.
No big plan though, Jenna?
To celebrate paying them off?
No, to help your parents out. Like a little kickback, maybe? No?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
I know. Oh, I give them medical advice all the time. So there you go.
Charging for your time, Jenna. That's pretty crappy, but okay.
They call me with their questions.
Hi, Mom. Hold on a second. I'm just going to set the timer. Go ahead. Yes.
No.
What's your toe doing?
I know, right?
How tough is that? Does everyone do that with you?
I will say get it pretty regularly, but I have to, so I do adult cardiology. So my friends call me with, their kids' rashes and this and that. I'm like, I got to remind you guys, I do adult cardiology. I don't know that much about kids. I don't want to give you advice on your kid's rash.
Yeah.
But now my friends' parents are starting to hit the cardiac world. I've been
call Jenna.
I know exactly.
Mom, tell Jenna where it hurt.
My dad has chest pain. Can you get him in tomorrow? So I do hear some of that, but that's all right. I try to help when I can.
Have you ever caught a problem?
I guess I will say I had my mom's friend take her husband to the ER recently, and that ended up being something that needed to go to the ER. So I was glad for that.
Just talked to a friend of mine, got a bug bite and swelled up. He showed a picture to his daughter, who's a nurse, just texted her. She showed it to a doctor who then said, your dad needs to go to the ER right now, and went to find out he had been bit by a brown recluse spider in a part of the country, where they shouldn't be, which is great news for all of us. And he was like days away from losing his hand.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I think and I know the guy, he's headstrong. I think if his daughter wasn't a nurse, I don't know what would have happened to him. Well,
my story's not as good as that, but I actually did catch one thing on Facebook, which I forgot about. So a girl I went to college with, that I just peripherally know and was Facebook friends with, posted a picture of a quote spider bite, but it was clear cut bullseye rash for Lyme disease. And I did tell her, I sent her a message on Facebook, and I was like, I think you need to go see your doctor. That looked like Lyme disease. And sure enough, they ended up treating her and she was fine, but no doubt that's what her rash was. So, but not as bad as a brown recluse.
Yeah. I just had a thing where I wish I knew you last week, because I was in the lawn for a while fixing something. And then next day I had this little lump between my thumb and my forefinger on the top of my hand. I was like, and it was hard. And I was like, something bit me. And then it started to itch really badly. And then another bump popped up on a different finger, and then a third bump, and then a fourth bump. And then they were all itchy. And then the itching became systemic. And Jenna, I itched in places we're not going to talk about because we don't know that well, where I definitely wasn't bit by anything or didn't touch anything with these bumps. Because once you get a bump on your hand, you reach with the other hand. And so I was very careful about all that. And maybe, I kept being like, oh, something bit me. There's no way I'm not going to overpower this. I'm a reasonably healthy person. Well, 5 or 6 days later, I started getting tired in the afternoons out of nowhere. And I was like, what is happening? So between the itching, and I could tell it was systemic because I was having a histamine response. There were places on my body that if I didn't touch them, they were fine. But if I just brushed by them, they became incredibly itchy. And then if I itched them, there was swelling no matter where it happened. And my wife's like, will you go to urgent care? And I was like, one more day. And I'm using Flonase and taking, I don't know, stuff medicine I thought was going to help. Who knows? But I just woke up one day and one of the lumps from the right hand was on the left hand. I'm like, I'm done. And so I went in and they hit me with a steroid pack and boo, that fixed everything. Really
That's
cool.
You sound like me. One more day of my diabetes diagnosis. I was just like, put this off till tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I kind of told it because of that, because I think people feel badly, but it's in everyone's head. Like, there was no reason for me to not go 3 days sooner when my wife's like, what are you doing? Like, what's the point of this? At this juncture, I'm like, it'll get better. And like, it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. So
yeah, I cleared up with the steroids. That's good.
Well, Jenna, can I tell you another part of the story?
Sure.
The pharmacist mistyped the directions on the steroids. So I took a lot of steroids in the first 3 days that I wasn't supposed to take, apparently, and really kicked the crap out of it. but about 2.5 days in, I took a hot shower, and I got out of the hot shower, and I was like, my chest is tight, and my neck is tight, and I was like, what is happening? And I cooled down, and I was okay. And then that made me think about the medication the next morning. And as I was putting them out on the table, getting ready to take 3 of these tablets in the morning, which I was supposed to be taking 2 in the morning and 2 at night. She had me taking 3 in the morning and 3 at night. And so, by the way, a local pharmacy, it's not anybody who's a sponsor, nobody worry. And so as I'm shaking them out on the table, I think, I don't have enough to get through this script. And that's the only thing that stopped me and thought, like, I'm taking too many of these. Then I went back and we straightened it all out. And it wasn't terrible, but I think it did explain the tightness in my, because I like tightness across my neck and my shoulders. I think my heart just started beating really quickly. And but I'll tell you what, it really kicked the hell out of those lumps.
The rash was gone.
Yeah, no problem. It wasn't even a rash. It was just bumps. They were weird.
Bumps, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even see them. Very strange. Anyway, Jenna, what have we not talked about that we should have so far?
I guess there's only one more thing that I kind of wanted to talk about. And I always feel like low carb is polarizing amongst the diabetes community. But I do think in regards to exercise, it works really well, because I always see people posting like, we can't get through recess, can't get through gym class. And I think it's kind of the mentality that I've, taken on. Like, if I want to go, not even just running, if I want to go for a walk at night, go do other, exercise. Like, for example, if I run after work and I'll eat low carb lunch, which I think is extremely helpful, because I don't have a whole bunch of insulin on board and I can usually get through a run, versus if I eat pizza for lunch or something that's going to take some corrections, or like extended bolus or something like that.
Yeah.
But I always feel like, I can't put myself in team low carb, because I don't eat low carb all the time. I eat pizza, sushi, burgers. I'll go out and do that kind of stuff. But if I know I'm planning to exercise later in the day, I think it's really helpful to do I do charcuterie boards or meat roll up type thing, salad, those kinds of things. I do think it can be helpful in certain situations.
So I think I agree with you. And I think that the mistake we're all making is talking about it like it's like, you just made a great point, right? Like, you can say, well, it's easier to exercise if you're on a low carb lifestyle, if you're using insulin. But what you're really saying is that I don't use as much insulin because I'm not battling as many carbs. And because of that, I don't have as much active insulin when I'm outside trying to run. So
exactly,
you could probably, I mean, not that this is apples to apples, but you could probably accomplish the same thing with more carbs with carb heavier food, if it was just fewer of them, if you were just using less. And I'm not saying it's not easier with a low carb lifestyle. I mean, it obviously is. And I also think that the arguments you see online are seasonal. And
true.
Yeah. Right. So, and I don't mean like winter, spring, summer, fall. I mean, eventually something, I've been in this space a long time. Eventually something happens that gins people up. And then people come out of the woodwork and scream and yell for a while. And then somebody comes out and tells me, don't tell me how to eat. And then they fight, and then it's over. And then it lingers, and then it's gone. Like, I have on my Facebook page, I have keywords set up. So we know where trouble's about to pop up. Okay.
Okay.
And so we can kind of keep track a little bit. And you'd be amazed that you can go 3-4 weeks and the word low carb will come up 800 times a day. And then all of a sudden it stops for months.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
makes sense though, because I do agree with you. I go through periods of time where you see it a ton, popping up on like my Facebook feed for the group or something like that. And then you don't hear about it for a while.
Yeah. And I understand it. I've said this before and I steadfastly, I stick to this. I think it's just people who have found something that works for them and they're trying desperately to share it with other people. They feel like they've found a secret. You're struggling for no reason. They want to tell you. Now, I've also seen people who listen to this podcast who would do the same thing. They said, look, I eat whatever I want and my A1C is in the 5s. And it's because I learned this thing on this podcast about how to use insulin. The mistake we end up making is thinking that these things are mutually exclusive. Like you either have to eat a bunch of carbs and really know how to use insulin, or you need to eat no carbs and use a low amount of insulin. Like, why can't they all just be skills in a toolbox?
That's what I agree. I completely agree. Because I just feel like low carb is a tool I use when I know I want to do something later in the day. But like, and also, thanks to your podcast, I think I'm pretty good at using insulin most of the time. I mean, I had a terrible miss last weekend eating pho, but in general, I can bolus for like the same pizza place I get pizza from. I do a pretty decent job. But, if I'm going to go exercise later in the day, I know that is not the right lunch to go for, you know?
They make pizza in Oklahoma?
There's a lot of pizza in Oklahoma.
Is it any good, Jenna? Be honest.
There are some good pizza places. But I feel like Oklahoma is like lately everything is pizza, burgers, or tacos. Everything that pops up around here.
Austin just bleeding all over the South. I see what you're talking about.
Probably true.
Yeah. Other things. I'm trying to find the girl's name as an example. So some girl with type 1 is on American Ninja something last night.
Yes.
All right.
I didn't watch it, but I saw about that.
You might think that we landed on the moon again. if you're in the diabetes space, you would think we just found a way to, like, I don't know, get water to Mars or something like that. Like, it's going to be super easy. We're all going to leave the planet. It's going to be terrific. This girl like competed, did well, and she had diabetes. Her CGM was out on her arm, and I'm looking at 100 notes. You have to have this person on the podcast. And I'm like, oh, I mean, one day maybe, but what I ended up telling them was she's going to get inundated by every diabetes, like, media outlet. And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, because they're all just going to ask her the same silly questions and who cares? It's going to be boring.
True.
Right. What's her name? Here, if she's hearing this now, 6 months later. Hey, 6 months later. Congratulations. Katie Boone. Is it Bone?
Bone, I think, is what I saw this morning.
Okay. All right. Well, Katie, great job. Very cool. If you want to come on now, that'd be amazing. But I don't want to hear her like, I got diabetes and it was really more of a blessing than like, because she doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I like people to have distance between their story and telling it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so anyway, but that's not the point. The point is this happened. And now if you look at the diabetes space today, tomorrow, the next day, it's all going to be about this girl, which cool. I'm good with. But it's sort of just like the thing with the low carb. Like you light the fire and then people are focused on it. And then, then they give up a little bit and then it goes away. And then I one time misspoke in a celiac episode. And, people online for days were like, Scott, you said the wrong thing. And I'm like, okay, well,
really?
I'm like, we'll fix it, and but it becomes the most important thing in the world again, because in the celiac example, these people, they know something I didn't know. And it was very simple. Like apparently something like called like quiet celiac or something like that, where you're getting the damage, but you don't have any of the symptoms. And I was talking to this guy who was really stressing out about his kid's celiac diagnosis. And I said, and he was talking about, he was very fixed on a cupcake, talking about a cupcake at a birthday party. And I finally said, I was like, how many birthday parties does this kid go to exactly? And he's like, not many. And I'm like, well, why don't you just let her have a cupcake? And boy, people who understand silent celiac were like, no. I'm like, okay, like tell me about it. We'll go back on. And we did. I had somebody on. We had a nice conversation about it. Like whole thing. It's, how people learn. But it's not like, but that episode still gets downloaded all the time, but I don't hear about it anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just interesting.
Right.
It's interesting how things ebb and flow on social media.
That is true.
Yeah. But because I've seen, I also believe that the low carb wars that I've seen online are not as aggressive as I've seen them 5 years ago.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So hopefully people just live and let live, and
Yeah, we're all in this together.
yeah,
You know.
share your thing and let people pick. I love the podcast for that reason. I think there's a ton of different information in here. You can take whatever bit of it you want and use it and make your own thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I've learned so much from it. Your pro tip series, definitely recommend that.
Jenna, do you want to say something really nice to me and you're embarrassed? Go ahead.
No, it just helped me a lot because I feel like when I was first diagnosed, I was like kind of distraught and I couldn't even absorb what my endo was telling me. So, you know, she's great and I'm fortunate because she loves my low A1C. It's not like a lot of the things I read about online with these endos who aren't as supportive, but I just was like not mentally able to absorb what I was supposed to do. So with this insulin, so I feel like I learned a ton from the podcast. I could, you know, listen to it, you know, once I was kind of ready to start trying to learn and manipulate things and, you know.
Nice. That's excellent. How long did it take you to run the Boston Marathon?
So that was not a good marathon for me. I was poorly trained. So that one took me 3:59 or 3:58, something like that. But the one my fastest marathon ever is still the one that was 11 days after I got diagnosed with diabetes. I did that 3:23, I think is what it was.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, if you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known one way or the other what the number meant or didn't mean. You could have just been like 3:59. I would have been like, that's amazing.
Well, it's not a bad marathon time. Just was not my best marathon. I had some issues. My shoe cracked. Like it was crazy. Like the heel of my shoe, the foam, like
really,
like cracked. Yeah. It was like literally my right heel was like flapping around. So that was obviously a distraction.
Did that make you curse by any chance, Jenna, when that happened?
Oh, I'm sure I did. I was mad.
Jenna,
I noticed it at mile 16, so I had a long ways to go still.
I'm stalking you on Facebook now, and you went to my nephew's college that he's at right now.
Oh, did I really?
Yeah, don't say it out loud, but yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Nice.
That's really nice. Do you have other marathons in your future?
Yeah, I have nothing scheduled right now, but Philadelphia is the week before Thanksgiving, so I may try to do that one. That's the first one I ever did back in 2013, so thought maybe I'll return to it.
Yeah, that's nice. You go to Chickies and Pete's while you're here too.
I could. Yeah, I love the Philadelphia Marathon. It's pretty cool. The first half goes downtown. The second half's like out to Manayunk and back, but it's pretty nice.
You run along the water?
You do. It's on basically it's on Kelly Drive, I think, if I remember correctly. They shut it down. Yeah.
That would be nice. Hey, where do your parents flock to when it gets hot in Oklahoma?
So they have a beach house in the like very southern tip of Delaware.
Like Rehoboth?
Essentially Ocean City, Maryland. Fenwick Island.
Okay.
Right by Rehoboth.
Yeah. So they're running from the heat, right? Or they want the water?
Yeah. Lucky them. I'm jealous. It was like 104 here last weekend, and they were telling me it was like in the 60s there.
Is that manageable for like? How does that change your diabetes? Does that impact like your basal and stuff, or do you see the algorithm doing more work in the heat?
Yeah, it does actually. So I'm like need more insulin when it's hot, and I drop when it's cold, which I don't know if that's the same for everybody. Do you find that with Arden?
So Jenny, it's funny when I bring this up with Jenny. There's a defining diabetes or a variables episode, about temperature. And Jenny thinks about it like, interestingly, like she's like, if you go out in the cold, you shiver and that burns energy. And I'm like, really? And there's some people who say like you get in the shower and you heat up and my blood sugar drops. And some people say I get in the shower and I heat up, my blood sugar goes up. So obviously it's not very scientific. But I do see people having to readjust their basal during the summertime. Now, does that is it about hydration? Like, do you get dehydrated and your insulin doesn't work as well? Or, I don't know.
I don't know either. Because I joke that like at Christmas, I could just go stand outside in the cold after I eat all this junk and my blood sugar will go down, But mine spikes every day if I take a hot shower, which I just consider using as my pre-bolus for breakfast because, my loop will ramp up my basal a little bit. So
that's interesting. So you jump in the shower, your blood sugar goes up, the loop gets aggressive, and then you're ahead of breakfast a little bit.
Yeah, so I just eat breakfast right after that.
How well does the loop do with that shower spike? Where does it hold you?
I mean, it doesn't usually spike me like too high, but like probably 20 points, which I mean, loop will react to that. But if I open the loop, that spike comes down on its own. I mean, I don't have time to mess with that every morning of opening the loop. So it's fine. I just basically pre-bolus my breakfast or my coffee. But yeah, I do notice that every single day. So I think I'm really sensitive to temperature.
What's your blood sugar target in loop?
100. Oh no, on loop. Sorry. It's like I think 86 to 98 or something like that.
Oh, I have
somewhere in that range.
Arden has one of those weird like ones too. Look at you. I like you.
Let me see what it is. Yeah, 86 to 96 actually is what it is now. I think it was 98 and I changed it a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Arden's is right in that range too. And you use an auto bolus or the other branch?
No, I use auto bolus.
Ivan's or Pete's? Do you know?
Now I don't know the answer to that.
Is it free APS? Wait.
No, not free APS.
Okay. Is free APS what I'm even thinking of? There are so many different names of different things.
I know. That's why I was so nervous. I had to rebuild in February and I was like literally dreading it. And then it was so easy. So I don't want to discourage anybody from trying loop because it really is not that hard. It's just the idea behind it sounds stressful.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. All right, Jenna, you were great. I can't tell. Did you have a good time?
I did. I was gonna say, hopefully I talked enough for you.
Oh, are you kidding?
A little quiet. Okay, good.
No, you were terrific. I just thought, like there were times where I felt like you wanted to say stuff you didn't say, and then I was like, am I running her over? I couldn't figure it out. But you're in your 30s, you can fight for yourself. So I figured. Oh
no, I don't think so. I think I got out everything I wanted to say.
Excellent. That's cool. So you're happy with this?
I'm very happy. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me on.
No, are you kidding? It was terrific. I appreciate you wanting to do it. I'm flabbergasted that anybody wants to run anywhere. So like I'm looking, like there's still a picture up like on a different monitor. I'm still like looking at your stuff. And it's just a photo of people crossing a finish line. I was like, oh my God, what happened to those people that they want to do this? And then I think the same thing of me, like, why don't I want to do this?
Oh, you got to like it because, running is a time consuming sport, especially marathon training, but it's probably that type A personality in me. First, it was a bucket list item in 2013 when I ran Philly. And then I was like, well, if I could finish, I could probably get faster. And then I was like, I could probably qualify for Boston. And so that's, went down that rabbit hole. So here we are. I've done 5 marathons with type 1 diabetes. So
do you do anything else?
More.
Do you do anything else that falls similarly into that category aside from running?
I mean, I go to like spin class sometimes, but not that often because honestly, I run with this group, so it's social, so I don't like to miss out. So
yeah, it's nice.
I got to show up every morning. My friends are there. We run from a Starbucks. We run and get coffee. So maybe I am crazy that I'm sitting there at Starbucks, at like 5:45 in the morning when I could be in bed. But it's fun.
No, listen, I'm mostly joking. I think it's amazing that you have a thing that you like. I love that you're setting goals, and I think everyone should do that. I think physical activity is incredibly important. I think people are happier when they're active. I think that insulin works better when you're active. There are a number of reasons aside of diabetes that you'd want to be active like this. And there are a number of reasons with diabetes that you would want to. So no, I think it's great. Listen, it's just one person that sticks in my head that, it's probably her thing more than it is about running. But
yeah, I know the type you're talking about.
Yeah,
definitely don't fall into that category.
Yeah. I'm going to stop for the recording, and I'm going to tell you one more thing. Okay. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Yep. A huge thanks to Jenna for coming on the show today, and I'd also like to thank US Med and remind you to go to usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514 to get your diabetes supplies the way we do from US Med. And don't forget to check out touchedbytype1.org. Touched by Type 1 just invited me to come back and speak at their next event, and I said yes. You should check out their website and see when it is. touchedbytype1.org. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. And don't forget to check out the private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes.